Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. That's a wrap, guys. We did it. We have predicted every single game for every single SEC team, and in doing so, we have wrapped up our Power 5 predictions, predicting every single game for every single Power 5 program. So next week, we'll be taking on the Group of 5, talking about the Group of 5 recaps. Before we jump into that, we've got to give you our SEC recap. We've got to show you our SEC standings, and we've got to tell you who we have winning the Southeastern Conference in 2022. So we'll go ahead and jump right on into it, guys, starting over in the West Division, where it shouldn't be a surprise, we have Alabama winning the SEC West. The Crimson Tide coming in at 12-0 for us, 8-0 in conference play. You know, Alabama was the national runner-up last year, and despite what Nick Saban says, it was not a rebuilding year. Alabama losing the national championship to Georgia, but returning the Heisman Trophy winner in Bryce Young, bringing in Jahmyr Gibbs at running back from Georgia Tech. Will Anderson is back as maybe the best defensive player in the country. The Crimson Tide, I don't know if they will slip up to anyone in the SEC or anyone at all this season. Behind them, maybe a surprise for some, we have Arkansas coming in at second in the SEC West at 9-3, 6-2 in conference play. The Razorbacks are legit, guys. They won 9 games last year, 8 in the regular season with their bowl win over Penn State. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Texas. They beat Missouri. They beat LSU. This is the Razorbacks team, guys, like we just said with Alabama, has a chance to be even better than they were last year. KJ Jefferson returns. A solid trio of running backs return. Jaden Hazelwood transfers in from Oklahoma at wide receiver to replace the void left by Traylon Burks. The offensive line is solid. The defense is loaded with transfers. Arkansas and Sam Pittman have a chance to shock the nation in 2022. And while they might not win the West or make the playoff or anything like that, a second place finish in the West, a potential New Year's Six bowl game, pretty dang good for the Hogs. Behind them, Texas A&M, 9-3. So they're not 8-4 They slightly improved to 9-3. But this season will be viewed as a disappointment if the Aggies fail to win anything less, I believe, than 10 games. You know, the way Jimbo's recruited, the way the hype has been surrounding this Aggies program, everybody thinks A&M is poised to beat Alabama again and make the playoff and win the West, and it's simply just not in the cards. I'll believe it when I see it. A&M is a good team. Max Johnson in at quarterback. Maybe Haynes King, but have a solid quarterback regardless of who they are. The defense is loaded with talent, but the schedule is tough, especially that 4-game stretch early on against Miami, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Alabama. And ultimately, if you can't beat Alabama, you can't win the West. And A&M is not going to beat Alabama. Underneath Texas A&M, Ole Miss, 8-4, 500 in conference play. Last year, Ole Miss set a program record. 10 regular season victories. And we told you in our Ole Miss video, don't bet on history repeating itself. The Rebels have a very solid first 7 games, a very favorable first 7 games. I could see them start 6-1 or 7-0. But their last 5 games include games against LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. Those last 5 games will make or break Ole Miss's season, and we just don't expect them to fare very well in those games. LSU in at 7-5, year 1 under Brian Kelly. 7-5 would be viewed as a major disappointment. I know we're getting a lot of hate from LSU fans, but fact of the matter is you have quarterback uncertainty, whether it's going to be Miles Brennan, Garrett Nussmeier, Jaden Daniels, no one knows. The defense has questions in the secondary. The defensive line is very solid. But there's questions across the board, and you're dealing with a new coach and, of course, a difficult schedule, which is life in the SEC. LSU has the talent to win, maybe more than that. I'd say 9 wins is probably their cap. We believe they have a little bit of growing pains under the new staff and new schemes. Fall to 7-5, 3-5 in conference play, but bounce back in a big way in 2023. And then finally in the West, Mississippi State and Auburn, a tie at 6-6. Clearly we had Mississippi State winning the tiebreaker over the Tigers. So that's why I get that edge there. Mississippi State, guys, best team yet under Mike Leach. It's just not going to show in the record due to their very difficult schedule. Cross-division games against Georgia and Kentucky. Road game against Alabama. It's going to be very difficult for the Bulldogs. Auburn, same for them. Questions on offense outside of the line and their running back core. Do have questions at the wide receiver position and at quarterback. Very, very brutal schedule, especially towards the end of the season. We just don't think the Tigers have enough across the board to hang with the big boys in the West. They're going to get there if they don't fire Brian Harsin, but 6-6 after finishing 6-7 last year sounds about right for Auburn. The East, again, not a surprise. Georgia, 12-0, 8-0 in conference. Don't really see them losing to anybody. Toughest games are against Oregon, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And as you can see, Tennessee and Kentucky are who we have at second and third in the SEC East. The Volunteers, guys, they are the real deal. This offense has the chance to be one of, if not the best in the country. That's how good Hendon Hooker and Josh Heupel's offense can be. We have them at 8-4. We titled that video as Tennessee Overrated, and we said no, they're not. Tennessee is not overrated. They are the real deal. And maybe they beat Pittsburgh. We don't think they will. Maybe they beat Pittsburgh. Maybe they pull off another upset here and there. This Volunteers team, guys, has the potential to win 10 games. I wholeheartedly believe that. But we still believe they're a year or two away from fully breaking through under Josh Heupel. But regardless, they're going to be a tough out for any team that they play. 8 regular season wins, a shot at 9 after winning 7 last year. Kentucky in at 8-4. Many would view this as a disappointment considering Kentucky won 10 games last year. But the Wildcats are poised to take a step back. They lose so much defensively. They've got a couple questions in the wide receiver core. And again, another brutal schedule for Kentucky. The road game at Florida, the road game at Tennessee, a road game at Ole Miss. Still have to play Georgia. Yeah, they come to Lexington, but you got to be able to beat them, something Kentucky has not been able to do. So Kentucky in at 8-4, another solid year for the Wildcats, but one that many fans might view as a disappointment considering they don't reach 10 wins and considering they're not going to win the SEC East. Underneath Kentucky, maybe a surprise for some. South Carolina and Florida tied at 4th, but we gave the tiebreaker to South Carolina. We do have the Gamecocks beating Florida in 2022. We got a lot of hate for that, but again, the Gamecocks torched Florida last year. The Gamecocks and Shane Beamer are going to be even better in 2022. Spencer Rattler is in. They've got a very underrated wide receiver core and running back core, and a very underrated secondary, one that was 7th against the pass last year. We believe in Shane Beamer. Unbelievable turnaround in just year 1. They're going to take an even bigger step forward in year 2. Florida, on the other hand, 7-5, not a bad mark under first-year head coach Billy Napier. Solid foundation being laid, 500 record in conference play. But many would view this as a disappointment. The fact of the matter is, guys, with the way Florida finished last year, dealing with a new coach now, dealing with new schemes, Florida's not going to go from 6-7 to 9-3 or 10-2. It's just not going to happen. They're going to go through some growing pains, and you've got to be patient. Anthony Richardson is going to light some defenses up. Florida is going to have their moments, but they are not going to be a top half team in the SEC East. They're going to be 7-5, 8-4, 9-3 at best. But we're going to go on the low end here. Give them 7-5, 4-4. The Gators, though, still going bowling and laying a solid foundation under Billy Napier. And then finally in the East, Missouri and Vanderbilt, 4-8 for the Tigers. A lot of people disagree with that. I'll believe it when I see it. 4-8 for the Tigers, guys. Yeah, Drinkwitz has recruited well, but we've been saying that since he got there and hasn't really turned into good results. So Missouri, 4-8, will struggle with their difficult schedule, and then Vanderbilt winless again in the conference. Only wins coming against Hawaii and Elon out of the FCS. So the SEC Championship, guys, no surprise, it's a rematch. Alabama and Georgia. It was the SEC Championship last year. It was the National Championship last year. Bama won the SEC title game, but Georgia won the big one, won their first natty since 1980. Bottom line, guys, is this game simply doesn't matter. Yes, the winner is SEC champion. Yes, good for them. You get the trophy, you get bragging rights, but both these teams at 12-0 are making the college football playoff. Regardless of what happens in this game, they will make the college football playoff if both teams, of course, are undefeated. It's just going to be a matter of who gets seeded number 1. We believe the number 1 seed will be Alabama. We do believe that Alabama gets their revenge over Georgia from that national championship loss last year. It will be another great game. It'll be closer than last year's SEC championship game, but Bama prevails. They're going to get the 1 seed. Georgia will be the 2 or the 3. It really doesn't matter. They're both going to the playoff, and we might have a shot to see Georgia-Bama Part 3 in the national championship. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. That is a wrap on our Power 5 predictions, which means we are 1 day closer to the start of the regular season. But if you've enjoyed these predictions, guys, make sure to go check them all out down on our playlist, the SEC playlist, the Big Ten playlist. Take a look at all of our prediction videos. Stay tuned for the Group of 5. Make sure to check out everything down in the description below as well, including our new Discord server and including our new expert picks. Make sure to go take a look at those and sign up for those today. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, and we want you to become a part of our team. So make sure to go sign up for those today, guys. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.